Right, so try and sit forwards in the first instance, feet below your knees and slightly tilted forwards. Rubbing your hands together and tapping over your face. Over your head and neck. Over to one shoulder, your arm. Other side. Upper part of your chest. Light on your belly. And your legs. Now we can sit back. And letting your weight drop back in the chair and just allowing for the time for this sense of your attention coming into your body. Came across a nice phrase in the guided meditation recently where it was said that, this is a sitting meditation, that we're building a muscle for homecoming. And this is the idea that in the same way as we might develop a physical movement to build the muscles so that we could do whatever we're training to do. So the focusing of our awareness has a similar kind of effect, that we're conditioning ourselves so that this process of returning our attention into our body, that is in and of itself such a benefit, but also crucial to the development of Tai Chi, is also developed through practice and conditioning. Gradually noticing more and more details, the gentle rise and fall of your belly and chest as you breathe in and out. Maybe even a change in your back, your hips, with the in-breath and the out-breath. Dissolving, releasing, melting quality, however you care to think of it, as some of the tightness and the stiffness in your body begins to dissolve away. Now, come into the upright position again. Remember, you don't have to sit forwards the whole time. And in particular, just be aware of your lower back. If that starts to ache a little bit, do sit back. You'll find that most chairs with that slope back will just adequately support your lower back, or put a cushion behind it or something like that. No point in sitting there allowing your back to become tight. That sense of settling down once again. And just beginning to turn your head. All the movements in Tai Chi are regular and circular, shall we say. Perhaps circular is a better term than regular. Even this one, I mean, if you think about your nose, it's going through a little sort of arc. And as we build the movement up, we realize that, broadly speaking, we can divide it into two stages. One is the extending stage, the movement outwards. and the other the contracting stage, yin yang. You like to think of it in those terms. And with this one, as you turn, you'll notice something in the region of your neck or your shoulder. One part of your body extending out, with the other being slightly compressed. And then at a certain point, the extension will turn into a contraction and the compression will turn into a push. And you come back the other way. So going back to that idea, that phrase, building the muscle for homecoming, the thing that brings you back is there in the movement itself. Just recognizing that you want to turn, you want to feel the extension, but you don't want it to be tight. And so you just allow it to pull you back before it stiffens up. And then shoulders, and the same thing applies to all of these movements in one way or another. In these opening movements, that's a relatively straightforward and simple thing to observe. Obviously, in some of the movements that we're doing progressively, so really as we go through the session, it becomes more difficult because they're more complex. Those changes, those movements within the body are much more subtle. So one of the reasons we always start with these exercises is to condition the mind, to condition our awareness, to come back and to be aware going forwards. And then hands down to your sides. Rotating. And then winding around. Back the other way. Inevitably, you will find some parts of your body easier to sort of access with your mind than others. This is perfectly normal, not something to really be concerned about, because from the point of view of that simple focusing, that homecoming, any point of focus will work. Rest your hands. But what we want to do in Tai Chi terms, just rocking your weight forwards and backwards, feeling your weight going into your legs, and then pushing yourself back. In Tai Chi terms, what we want to do is to gradually, having established that awareness in some parts of the body, see if we can find a way to expand it outwards to cover the whole of the body eventually. Turn a little bit so that your head goes towards one knee and your weight is more on one side than another. Any detail that you notice is useful for that sense of bringing your attention in. Whether it's a correct detail or not, to be honest. I mean, you might notice, oh, I'm doing this wrong. Or you might think, is this correct or whatever. But from that point of view of training the awareness, in a sense, it doesn't matter. In terms of the broader picture of Tai Chi, that is important, of course. And then in the other direction. And going around. And back the other way. This is just that much of this movement is your pelvis rolling around, the shoulders following that movement, a nice smooth movement in your back in between. Not too big a movement. So your head moving within that square formed by your feet and your hips. And settle back in your hips, going and stepping. The other side. Good. Okay, so your hands drop down to your sides and palms of your hands forwards. Bird fold this way. And then fisherman cast the net. And then roll in the ball. pigeon spreads its wings. One more time. Pushing away. Sit back as you go forwards, just letting your arms curve up. So the forward movement is accompanied by an extension, an opening up of your arm, and then a contraction as you go back. And that forward movement will encourage a curving up, because obviously your arm's attached at one end. So we don't think in terms of trying to lift the arm. We're not here. We don't want to lift the arm and then push forward. So we're pushing up from underneath. Good. Your hands twisted. So here there is no upward movement, just an extension through the arm, but also a rotation, an unwinding of the arm, like a spring wound up and then released. So that same forward and backward movement in your weight. And that same rhythm, extending out, contracting in. Turning your hands out now, opening out, putting your chest open and then contract in. Finishing with that same pushing away movement. From here, get my hands up, palm up. Take a moment just to let the heel of the palm drop down. And as I push down through that, it curves up. So here, let me show you that again. I'm going to exaggerate this. When we get to here, I turn my hand, I push the heel of the palm down, and that actually encourages a forward movement. If it goes down, it goes along, and then curves up again. I think this is the last one. So now changing bringing your hands in, expanding, hips, feet gently pressing down into the floor and your chair. And start lengthening through your back. There's somebody just very gently taking hold of your head around the jawline. Pull very gently just to lengthen your spine. One more. Still that same action in hips and feet. Your arms out to your sides now. Wild goose. Like a bird in flight. One more time. As we go into part in the clouds, there is this very slight angling forward, so you can just let your hands drop in front of your knees. And then that same push up, a little bit more expansive, feeling the movement just rising up through your body. Belly, solar plexus, chest all expanding, and then contracting. And again, we see that link between the extension and the contraction. We feel that link, that sense of being drawn back, not forcing ourselves back. Okay, letting your hands drop down. Dragon plucks the stars from the sky. So part of that development in learning to bring your attention back and being able to bring your attention back is very bound up with the focus of our attention in our bodies. Every exercise has layers of nuances, I think, layers of things to be aware of. Many of these exercises I've been doing literally since 1983, virtually on a daily basis. And yet they still will reveal things. One more on each side. Dragon plucks the stars from the sky. Yeah. Bringing both hands together, pushing up just a little above your head. The next time as your hands reach shoulder height, or just below really, pressing out. Just trying to be aware of that point of change between one movement and another. One more time. And then 1 foot extended, scooping the sea, looking at the sky. Now, twist your hands, sit back a little bit, push forwards, let your head go forwards and up, and drawing your hands over. So with a little push, your head goes forwards, you feel your back lengthening, chest opening, and then drawing in. One more time. Switch over. And changing this time to grasping the tiger's ears. Come back and just sit. And let your arms hang down to your sides. Tilt forwards a little bit, but as you do, turn to your left and feel how that brings your shoulder forwards a little bit. And the weight will move a little into the right foot. And same thing on the other side. Notice your arms just hanging down the sides, gradually building the movement. Into wind blows the willows. One more time. And then this time, as you do this, raising the opposite leg, so the leg that you're turning towards. It could just be your heel coming off the ground, your knee going up. Could be your knee going up, followed by your foot just lifting, maybe your knee going up a bit more. Or if you prefer, you do all of that, and then as you raise your foot, you rotate the hip. That last one is quite strong, so be careful with it. This dragonfly skims the water. let your hands rest. Hold them in front of you and just turn to your left and let your hands just rotate and push away there. Turn them and come back. Weight may be moving a little bit, but it's mostly in your hips and waist. And then turning that into a sort of figure of 8, and over and down. So you're sort of pushing down towards your hip. Or somebody pointed out in the YouTube video a few days ago, like an infinity sign you find in science and mathematics. So again, what's happening here, if I show you from the side, the arms are going out, there's an extension out, and then they're drawing back in, like there. It reminds me a little bit of paddling a canoe, because you're sort of going to one side and then the other, using both hands. And again, you can bring the legs into the movement. You could raise the heel, you could flex the ankle to raise the toes. You could even lift the foot up a bit. And then what you're trying to do is you're trying to get the hands and the feet to go down together. So they're lifting and planting the foot down. One more time. And just rest from that. Come back to sitting and consider again the detail of this particular posture. About a third of your weight in your feet, ideally gathered just behind the ball of each foot. You may notice that more if you just raise your heels slightly for a moment or two. And let them rest down. Pelvis is very slightly angled so that you're not sitting right back in your hips. So it's more like this than like this. If you can see here, I'm really kind of like right on the edge of my range of movement, much further, and I'm going to be being pulled backwards. And I know the chair back is there to stop you doing that, but try not to rely on it. This longer, stronger feeling going up to the middle of your body, a little bit more towards the back, really. With your head sitting on top of that, the shoulders like a shelf, if you like to think of it like that. Hips sinking down, shoulders dropping, leaving you with a stronger feeling in the middle of your back, holding your head up. With this sort of lengthening of the spine. And then once again, rubbing your hands together. And starting with your face. Over your head and neck. Down to one shoulder. Arm. Side. Half your chest. Belly. Lovely. Now, standing. So, our bodies offer our minds, if you like, think about this, a kind of place to rest by simply paying attention to whatever's going on in our body. That awareness that comes out of that, the picture we build up, enables us to progress by improving our posture. So the arrangement is a mutually beneficial one. We're not talking about mind over matter here. If anything, I suppose it's hard to say which would be the dominant one, but when we say first in the mind in Tai Chi, really what we're talking about isn't preparing the mind to sort of force our body into doing something that doesn't want to do, but rather to actually prepare the mind to observe how our body makes certain movements. Once we've done that, once that's begun to happen, we then bring in this quality that we call intent in Tai Chi. It's still not the mind controlling the body. It's a process of cultivation of movement and of posture, not of forcing growth. So you want your feet hip width apart. Weight slightly forwards. Knees soft as your hips drop back. Sinking down and pushing up. And then changing to the wild goose again. And parting the palms. One more time. And then the same figure of eight or infinity sign movement, turning, moving your hands up. I'm going to come a little bit closer. Probably my hands will probably disappear at some point, but notice how the hands and the arms rotate. There. So try and get it so that the palms of your hands are always facing the direction of the movement. Don't strain, don't sort of lock your shoulders up. Just try and let that happen smoothly and naturally. And again, you're sort of pushing down either side of your body towards your hips. When I say palms of your hands facing the same direction as the movement, it won't be total. That is obviously, you know, here, as you turn, they're not facing the direction of the movement until they get to there. But there is that little bit of a rotation. Good. Okay. 1 foot forwards, transferring your weight. Remembering that those of you who have sort of explored this idea with me, that we're just going to allow ourselves to rest on each foot. We're not in a hurry. It's not forwards, backwards. It's just that moment of settling. Again, if it's a useful image for you, that capacity that we have to return to come home, if you like. So that aspect of the art, it's always with us. It's there along with the rhythm of the movement, the expansion and the contraction. It's one of the fundamentals, I think. Raising your toes and your heel. And stepping in. Good, and then on the other side. Hip width across your feet, remember. So, you know, these little details of posture are again one of those things that draw our attention back. So it's always worth, you know, if I say hip width across the feet, check, are my feet hip width apart? Have I got the toes pointed in the right direction? If the answer is no, then at least you know and you can do something about it. If the answer is yes, you've actually focused your attention for that, or refocused your attention for that moment. Raising the toes and your heel. And stepping in. and stepping through. And going back. So your right foot forwards and begin to cast the net. Remembering to lead with your arms. Your arms will swing past your hips at about the point where you settle into each leg. Good. Now this time, as you come back, just turn a little bit to your left, bringing the hands over, and again, raising them up and down, going forward. So that same infinity symbol, figure of eight symbol, but this time with the weight shift. I'll show you from the side. Again, you can see my hands coming down towards my hips. And then mostly the palms of your hands leading. So you get that rotation in your shoulders. This time as you come back, raise your front toes. And then as you come forwards, raise your back heel. So we can begin to combine this movement with the stepping. You come back as your hands come down to your hips, you settle in, you raise your front toes, and then as you raise your arms, you lift, bring the foot in and step forwards. Yeah, bringing the foot in. Push the foot back, and as your hands start to go down, the foot goes down. So with this one, it's the puppet on the string thing, isn't it? You know, your hands start to come up, your foot starts to come up. I'm exaggerating, you don't have to lift it that high, but then back. Again here. And it's quite nice once you get used to the exercise to bring in that little kind of coordination between hands and feet. Let's try that on the other side. Let's go first, as always, with fisherman castanet. and then turning so you're sweeping water away. Raising your toes and your heel. And then step in. And then, if you're comfortable with this, instead of stepping back at this time, step forwards, heel toe weight again, feeling that connection through the center of your body between your hands and your feet. And then, of course, we can do the same thing going backwards. Just move your weight back, and then this time take the step. Bring your feet back. Good. Go back to your chair. So once again, just give yourself a few moments to consider your posture, with your weight sinking into the chair, with your breathing. Feel that stronger feeling from within your body, because as your shoulders drop, perhaps letting go a bit in the muscles of your chest, with your rib cage it's dropping and hanging slightly, and so on and so forth. We realise that there remains a strength within the body, something that continues to support us from inside, rather than a sense of sort of stiffening up, straining to be supported from the outside. The effect that might have on your breathing. You may have a sense of circulation, you may have a sense of your pulse, for instance, that kind of thing. Various aspects of the breathing, you might notice that sharpness of the in-breath, or how it tingles on the back of your throat, the rise in expansion of the belly. Let your hands drop down by your sides, and then embrace tiger, return to the mountain. One more. And rest. And just slowly open your eyes. Lovely. Thank you very much, everybody.